and record the rest of today's video, I wanted to create a super quick follow-up section to my previous video. So for those who don't know, my previous video was about getting back on track with my good habits and routines, which I completely lost in the past 2 years. And I decided to start with fixing my bedtime routine, not routines, fixing my bedtime, fixing my wake up time, and basically start going to the gym again. So I created a daily tracker where I can track my progress. It's a Google sheet, so I thought I would show you how things went last week. By the way, I'm definitely not super proud because I think I could have done a much better job. There were a few misses, which I kind of regret. So there you go, here's the Google sheet. So I started last Friday and I pretty much hit all 3 of my targets that day. So I woke up on time, I went to the gym, and then I went to bed on time. Which is great. Then the Saturday after that was also kind of a perfect day. I don't go to the gym on weekends, so that's why we have this dash here. And yeah, things started to collapse a little bit on Sunday. I started editing my video later in the afternoon, which took me a bit longer than I expected. So I went to bed quite late, so that's why it says 0 here. And obviously that spiraled into the next day. So I couldn't wake up on time. Then I didn't have time to go to the gym, which was pretty sad. But then I decided to at least hit my bedtime. Which I did. So the following 3 days after that went perfectly. On Friday, I overslept, but I still managed to go to the gym, which is great. On Saturday, I woke up on time, but I didn't go to bed at the time when I originally planned because I was with friends and I just didn't want to leave early. So I guess that's one of those corner cases that might actually happen, even if I get these routines solidified. But even though I went to bed late, I still managed to wake up the next day on time on Sunday, which is today. So this is where we are at the moment. Yeah, my accuracy with these habits right now is 78%. Not great, not terrible. Yeah, I'll definitely try to do better next time. Yeah, it says... Where is it? It says, yeah, average 78%. Yeah, and now I should go and record the rest of the video because it's already 3 p.m. Tiny bad news. My camera battery just died, so I'm gonna have to wait until it charges. My bedtime is in a slight danger now. So it looks like I'm gonna have to get a bit more realistic on how long things actually take. We are all set. Rock and roll. Because I lost lots of time with the battery situation in the office, I headed straight to Margaret Island again, so I didn't look for a new spot to film. The island is huge, there's always a nice place and a quiet place where I can film. So this time is right next to the river Danube. There you go. So yeah, even though you can't see it right now, I can, and it's a very nice view. Today I want to talk about starting something new, especially as an adult. We talk about this with friends a lot because I think after we leave school we kind of start working immediately, we start making money, and we kind of leave behind the kind of lifestyle that teenagers and people in their early 20s live. So what we do is we basically upgrade our lifestyle. We usually buy a car, we start having proper date nights. Some people buy houses, so they take on a mortgage that they need to cover. So we can't really stop making money because otherwise our very serious adult system falls apart. When I ask my friends whether they're happy with how their lives have turned out so far, it's quite interesting because they don't say no, but they say that they're a bit confused because I think they were expecting something different, something more. Because all they do is work and then they spend the money that they make. Obviously they save up and they do all those things. But I think many of my friends actually do have some different hobbies, dreams and ambitions that they want to turn into reality. My situation is quite the same really. During my teenage years and in my early 20s, I became a programmer, and I learned how to code, and I started working as a programmer at different software companies. I loved creating stuff. I loved working on the code. I loved working on the software. I consider myself a fairly creative person, you know. But you know, it wasn't quite enough for me. I wanted something more. Even though I liked building software, I wanted to do something else. And when I started building my own software company, at the beginning it was very similar to what I did when I was an employee. I was coding and I was excited. My responsibilities kind of shifted towards managing people, hiring people, managing the dev teams, taking care of the paperwork and all that stuff. And I don't really like that, to be honest. But I ended up spending the majority of time with stuff like that. Yeah, and it was not very long ago when I realized that I spend like 80% of my time doing something that I don't really enjoy, and yeah, maximum 20% that I quite like, and that what brings me joy. Because you know, when I started learning about business, I read lots of business books, and most of those business books are written by people who really promote the hustle culture, and they say that if you want to be successful, you need to be financially successful first. And they say even if you hate what you're doing, you need to do it for at least 3 years, 5 years, 10 years until you financially become free. And I don't know, once you're 35 or 40 or 50, then you can take all the money that you made and then you can just do what you want, which I think concept-wise resonated with me for a long time, but I just don't really know how they're doing it, to be honest. And you know, whatever you decide to do, there will always be parts that suck, that you will hate doing, and that applies to me. Even if you love your job, I mean, there must be bits that you just hate doing, and that's fine. Okay, my camera got overheated and shut down, which is quite bad. I might just enjoy the beautiful view in the meantime. Yeah, that's quite nice. Let's try again. If the camera fails again, I might just finish the video on my phone. What I said was the ratio kind of should be the other way around. So if you enjoy 80% of your work and you hate 20%, I think that's fine. And I think you should always aim for doing more of what you enjoy and less of what you hate. But doing something you hate is part of the game. Whenever I get frustrated or whenever I spend a lot of time doing things that I don't like, I usually fall back to other things or fall back to wanting to do other things. And in my case, it's two things. One is game development, developing mobile games, and the other thing is making videos like this. But I usually don't want to sacrifice my weekdays, that my most valuable days in business. So what I usually do, or what I usually did, is I ended up doing those things over the weekend, and you know, it definitely wasn't sustainable. I just always ended up overwhelmed, and I just discontinued those side projects. And I think about a month ago I finally made a sort of adult decision, which was that, right, I'm not going to overwhelm myself by scheduling a ton of hobby projects for the weekends, but I'm willing to sacrifice one day of each week that I get to spend on whatever project I want to work on. Honestly, those days are all about planting seeds. It's not at all about making money, and not at all about building the business, etc. You know, I kind of feel like this video could have been like a minute long, but it's kind of ridiculous that it took me like 5 years to finally allow myself to have a weekday where I can work on projects that I want to work on. That's my approach pretty much. So, you know, my concern was that all the business books I read said that you can't really divide your focus. Whenever you build a business, you need 110% focus on the business, because if you start doing something else, then basically your business won't grow. And I did that for many years, but I think this is probably the shortest possible way to burn out. I think I went through about 2 burnouts in my life, so not too many, but I hated those periods because it took me like months to recover each time, which is terrible honestly, and I think it's easier to avoid it. So my conclusion now, you know, as a 34-year-old, so I'm not like a super experienced 70-year-old business person. Hang on a second. Yeah, Yeah, my camera overheated again at the last few sentences. So what I wanted to say was that I would rather lose a little bit of focus and a little bit of revenue, and I'm willing to sacrifice just a bit of growth than to lose my sanity and the joy I find in my work. So yeah, that's how after a few years I arrived at the point where I finally allowed myself to have a weekday where I get to work on the projects that I really like. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I wanted to share in this video. And I know it could have been a lot shorter, but I just wanted to give you some context because I think many young adults struggle with this a little bit. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you maybe find it useful. I don't know. I just realized I didn't even say goodbye at the end of the video. So thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Bye bye.